Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. Today we're looking at this clash between a massive corporate deal and some pretty serious regulatory hurdles in the freight rail sector.
Exactly. We're breaking down the market consequences of the organized labor opposition to that proposed $85 billion merger between Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern.
So we're really examining how this one move could affect investors all across the board.
From rival shipping companies all the way to, consumers who just depend on things showing up on time.
Okay, let's start with the headline itself. The rail unions are opposing this Union Pacific-Norfolk Southern merger. They're citing safety and cost risks.
Right. The opposition is mainly from two major rail unions.
And what's their specific warning? What are they worried about?
They believe that combining these two huge systems, which would create the first real transcontinental railroad in the U.S., could raise safety risks.
And also disrupt service.
Disrupt service and ultimately increase shipping costs for everyone.
So this is about more than just jobs then. It seems tied to the way these railroads actually operate.
It is. It's all about something called precision scheduled railroading, or PSR. That's really the ghost in the machine here.
Explain that. What is PSR?
Well, for years, the industry has been pushing this model. It's all about maximizing assets. So fewer locomotives, fewer cars, and crucially, running fewer but much, much longer trains.
Often with smaller crews, I imagine.
Exactly. And the unions are arguing that if you merge these two huge systems under that PSR model, you get a really dangerous scenario.
Longer routes plus longer trains.
Right. It strains crew capacity, it increases fatigue, and it, just raises the risk of derailments and major service meltdowns.
So this isn't just a general complaint. It's a specific critique of this efficiency-first model being scaled up massively.
And that's why the regulatory hurdle is so high. This merger has to be reviewed by the Surface Transportation Board, the STB.
And they have a history of being tough on these deals, right?
Very tough, especially since the early 2000s. They're very aware of the dangers of creating monopolies in essential infrastructure.
So the union opposition gives them leverage.
All the leverage they need to impose tougher conditions, drag out the review, or, maybe even reject the deal outright.
And that uncertainty alone starts to create winners and losers. Shippers see a potential 3 to 5 year regulatory fight.
And they start making other plans immediately. If confidence in Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern starts to slide, customers who need that stability are going to move their freight.
Okay, so let's get into that. Who benefits if this deal gets delayed or just falls apart? Who are the market winners here?
So first, we look at the competing rail networks.
The rivals.
Exactly. The logic here is pretty simple. Shippers, especially big ones, they rely on having at least two competitive rail options for their most important routes.
And if the two biggest carriers merge, for many shippers, that option just vanishes.
It vanishes. So the fear of that loss, or just the fear of chaos during the integration, it drives them to start diversifying their freight right now.
That feels like a guaranteed bump in volume for the other big players.
It is. The main beneficiaries here are the companies that offer stability. So we're looking at CSX. That's ticker CSX.
Okay.
Canadian Pacific, Kansas City, ticker CP, and Canadian National Railway, ticker CNI.
And what about BNSF? They're a huge competitor to Union Pacific.
Absolutely. And that means Berkshire Hathaway, which owns BNSF. That's ticker BRK.B. BNSF is a massive system, and it's a ready-made, stable alternative. They could absorb a lot of traffic looking for a safe harbor.
That makes perfect sense. So if some freight is coming off the rails because of this uncertainty, where does it go?
Well, the natural overflow goes to trucking and logistics providers.
To the roads.
To the roads. If rail pricing gets weird or service reliability drops, freight just spills over. Trucking is just so much more flexible than rail, even if it's less efficient for long hauls.
And we're talking about a few specific segments of trucking here, aren't we?
We are. So you have your general truckload carriers who handle full trailers. But this kind of disruption also really benefits the LTL networks.
Less than truckload.
Right. LTL is where freight from many different customers gets put onto one trailer. LTL carriers do well when service and reliability are key, which is exactly what shippers are looking for when rail gets shaky.
So who are the names to watch there?
You'd be looking at companies like J.B. Hunt Transport Services, ticker JBHT.
Okay.
Old Dominion Freight Line, a huge player in LTL, that's ODFL. And also XPO, ticker XPO, and the logistics brokerage C.H. Robinson, which is ticker CHRW. They connect shippers to available trucks.
Let's go back to the issue the unions brought up in the first place. Safety. Even if this merger fails, all this attention on safety must have an effect.
It does. And that brings us to our third group of winners, rail technology and equipment suppliers.
Oh.
Well, whether the merger happens or not, all this scrutiny from regulators and labor has put a big spotlight on the industry's need to modernize. They have to address the real problems that come with running these incredibly long trains under the PSR model.
So the pressure to get safer translates directly into more spending on new tech.
It's capital expenditure that's now almost guaranteed. The carriers will be pushed, either by the STB or just public pressure, to invest heavily in things like advanced monitoring systems, positive train control, and better braking systems.
And who makes that equipment?
We're talking about major suppliers like Wabtec Corporation, ticker WAB. They provide a lot of the digital tools and components.
Okay.
And also the railcar manufacturers like Trinity Industries, ticker TRN, and Greenbrier Companies, ticker GBX. The whole regulatory climate is forcing investment, and that's good for their order books.
All right, let's flip this around. Who's most negatively affected by all this opposition and uncertainty?
Well, we have to start with the two companies right in the middle of it, the merging railroads.
Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern.
Exactly. For them, more opposition just means the costs of this deal are going way up. They're facing huge compliance costs, long legal fights.
And they might have to give up a lot to get the deal approved.
Major concessions, like giving rivals guaranteed access to their tracks. And the whole review period just gets stretched out, which delays any of the benefits they were hoping for from the merger.
All of which makes that $85 billion price tag look a lot less attractive.
It does. So all that pressure lands right on Union Pacific, ticker UNP, and Norfolk Southern, ticker NSC.
Okay, moving beyond the railroads themselves, who are the customers that really get hurt here? Who depends on this service the most?
That takes us to the second group of losers, bulk shippers. I'm thinking specifically about chemicals, agriculture, raw materials.
Companies that move huge volumes of stuff where the margins are already thin.
Right. For them, rail isn't a choice, it's an economic necessity. You just can't move that much grain or fertilizer or plastic pellets by truck. It's way too expensive.
But these are giant companies, like Archer Daniels Midland. Don't they have enough leverage to protect themselves?
They have leverage, sure. But the problem is that consolidation reduces their options. It limits the number of competitive routes. So if their one carrier raises prices, they have nowhere else to go.
So they lose that key negotiating tool of being able to play one railroad against another.
Precisely. And for them, the big retailers, these companies run on incredibly tight, just-in-time logistics. They use rail intermodal, containers moving from ship to train to truck to manage inventory for thousands of stores.
And any disruption there, any cost increase, just throws their whole plan out of whack.
It does, especially during peak seasons. If this merger pushes more volume onto trucks, which is more expensive, or if rail prices go up, their overall shipping costs rise. And since they operate on such thin retail margins, that's a huge problem for their business model.
So we're talking about the biggest names in retail.
We are. This includes Walmart, ticker WMT, Target, ticker TGT, and of course Amazon, ticker AMZZN. Their whole operation depends on high volume, low cost distribution, which makes them very exposed to any instability in the rail sector.
So to pull it all together, we have this massive $85 billion merger meant to create this seamless transcontinental rail system.
But it's running into some serious headwinds because of these concerns over safety, over service, especially in the context of that PSR operating model.
And that's creating winners, those who benefit from stability, and losers, who are vulnerable to disruption and higher costs.
The core issue here is really that classic tension. It's the push for efficiency through corporate consolidation versus the public need for, robust safety and competitive pricing.
And the big question for you, the listener, to think about is the one the Surface Transportation Board has to answer.
Right. Which of those priorities, corporate efficiency or public reliability, will ultimately win out when they decide what's best for the country's economy?
A great question to end on. Thanks for walking us through all that. Disclaimer, this is not financial advice or buy or sell recommendations. This is purely the opinion of the author.